think there's a difference between a pause and what I would call Selah. In the Bible, in the Christian um, Jewish texts, the sacred texts, there is the story of King David and his court of musicians. And that is recorded in the songs and psalms. There's a word that occurs in that book, the book of Psalms, 74 times, 71 times in Psalms and 4 times in the book of Habakkuk. It's called Selah, Selah. No one actually knows what it means. It's such a fugitive word. It escapes the dictionary. It escapes capture. But people believe that it means something like silence, like maybe it was an instruction of the musician to everyone blowing the trumpet that this is the place where you exhale. Okay, no instruments here. Or some people actually say it's a place where the musician in charge invited the other musicians to go on a riff, like forget the script, do a jazz number here, just blow as you wish, right? No one knows what exactly it is. I feel that, and I think there's a popular understanding of Selah, that it's the place where things get strange. It's a place where we are met by something greater than ourselves. Not just a place where we pause. I think this quarantine was, in many respects, pausing, like just putting a pause on things so that we can resume those things later on. A Selah is not just a resumption of convenient continuity. It's like a querying of continuity. It makes it impossible for us to resume things. You don't just resume after a Selah. And why is that? It's because we are rendered incapable of doing that. Let me bring it down to earth so that it's not so ethereal or abstract. There are people in India today that are no longer sending their kids to school as a result of the pandemic. Why? Not because schools haven't opened yet. That would be a convenient reason. But because they are now able to ask questions they were never able to ask because of the pandemic. Parents started to ask questions like, wait, if our kids could learn everywhere, if everywhere is a learning moment, then why do we need to send them to school as if that's the only place to learn? People are asking the same questions about work, the way modernity has framed work and the office space, right? Why do we need to commute to get to work? Isn't there an immediacy to learning and working that we're missing because of the ways we frame the architecture of our experiences? And so that's what I mean by it's much more than a pause and then reflecting. It's much more than reflection. In fact, I would use a different optical phenomenon altogether and call it diffraction. Diffraction is not just, reflection is like a ray of light hitting an obstacle and returning to the sender. Diffraction is when light behaves like a wave and curls itself around the obstacle, almost eating and cannibalizing the obstacle, making it a part of its own mattering, and then becoming something different. So diffraction is when waves interact with each other, just like drop 2 stones in a river or in a body of water and watch the ripples, just flow into each other and see the patterns that emerge from that. So that's the invitation here. It's more than reflection. With regards to climate change and climate chaos and collapse and justice, I feel that we're stuck in a cycle beyond the pandemic. We have been stuck in a rationalistic Puritan mode of responding to crisis for a long time. Like it involves legislation, it involves UNESCO, it involves flying to giant conferences, and it seems we're at a loss, with what to do. We don't know how to respond to this crisis. I feel that sometimes the way we respond to crisis is part of the crisis. That the way we try to weave a solution, or construct a response to crisis becomes the problem itself. So that our exertions only dig us deep further into our graves. It's like, that old myth or story about a roach. Is it a cockroach or a rat that fell into a bowl of milk or something and curdled the milk even further in trying to escape? I think we've tried to escape for too long. I think this is the time to dig deep. And digging deep does not come from reflection, I would say. Not trying to create a binary between reflection and diffraction, but diffraction is the kind of inquiry that invites us to meet the world and be lost in the meeting. And I can speak more, these are dense topics that I cannot treat in an hour, but they invite us to, to spend sometimes months exploring what it might mean to become lost, what kind of inquiry might take us out of our way, out of our minds, you might say, to meet the world and to be met by the world. So it's not about our genius, brother. It's not about what we concoct in our minds. It's about what the world might help us see when we meet them in humility.